Well, more recently got into the paranormal, so it was probably getting seriously into it about 2017, where my sister and I would go out, investigate actual haunted buildings, haunted locations, heritage sites. But before that, when I look back historically, I do realize that I've had some interesting paranormal experiences beforehand. So they did happen a while back.
Tell us a bit about your first experiences.
I would say my very first experience was when I was a younger kid, and this is a strange one. So I remember waking up, I was sharing a room with my sister, and I woke up, and the whole room was filled with these like glittery, like staticky looking things. That's the best way I can describe it. So it was like the whole room looked like that, it was dark, and I kept asking these things to kind of make like certain shapes, like a tree or a bird, or and they kind of did that. And I remember doing like I was probably about 9 or 10, and I even did the pinch test. So I pinched myself. I thought, okay, I gotta make sure I'm awake here. And I was actually awake. My sister was asleep, and it was, I don't know, the middle of the night. So I'm guessing maybe 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning. And these things kind of floated around the room. Now I've listened to many podcasts hoping that somebody was going to say like, oh, I've come across this same thing, but nobody has. So I don't know what that was. It was the strangest thing ever. I remember just staying awake and thinking, what the heck is this? And finally, after a few, probably 10, 15 minutes, these things disappeared. So they just slowly became less and less and less till the whole room, there was nothing. So I don't know what that was. I don't know if it was paranormal. I don't know if it was just, I was still in a dream, but I thought I was awake, but I swear I wasn't awake, but of course you always try to talk yourself out of it. So, but that was the very first time something really weird happened to me.
And you were actually telling me in text message about another type of dream. Let's get into that one.
Let's talk about that. So in my early 30s, one of the very first really strange dreams I had was about a person that I didn't even know. So he came to me in a dream and said, well, I'm the husband of this, and this person. So I, at the time, actually worked with her. So he was telling me things about himself. Like, I know she's, feeling guilty. I know she has like these 2 particular t-shirts in the closet. So I'm just here to kind of tell her that I'm okay, because he was a suicide. So he was telling her that he was okay, and he wanted me to relay this message. So I remember, remembering that it felt like a really long dream, but in reality it probably wasn't a very long dream. But he was telling me certain things that I wouldn't know about this person, because I hadn't even met him. I knew of him, but just hadn't met him, of course, because he was gone. So at the time he told me, tell Carrie that, mention like the bottle cap incident. She will know what that means, because there was a party and there was something that happened. So I got all these strange details of things that didn't make sense to me, but obviously was for the person on the other end to relay. So I remember having the very first dream that I had of that nature, and then just waking up really, really, really exhausted. So I woke up really exhausted, but I thought, okay, so how do I even talk about something like this with somebody? Because, it's like, how do you start off? But, we were at work, and I just said, I had this really strange dream. And so she happened to be open to like listening to it. So I did tell her, I had a dream about your husband Jim, and she automatically was just really, really shocked. And as soon as I like mentioned the t-shirts and the bottle cap thing, she started crying, I started crying, and she said, oh my god, I can't believe you had this dream, because I totally know it was a party. And yes, all of that made sense to her. And I just said, well, I think he just is telling me to tell you that he's all right. So it was a very, very strange thing. So I thought, okay, well, I don't know why I had the dream at the time. I had never had one before that. And then I thought, well, I don't know if I'm ever going to have another one after that. And then sure enough, I did. I had yet another dream about somebody who passed. And again, it was an acquaintance that I knew. And it was her mom that had passed. And so her mom in the dream took me through the whole house. She lived in Portland. I was living in Eugene at the time. Again, never met her, never been to the house. She led me through every single room in the house. And I just remember that it went like, it was kind of a circular. So you went through the hallways, there was all these rooms. And then you started out in the kitchen, and when you went through the hall, and you ended up, and there was another opening that was the other side of the kitchen. So you ended up sort of going into this sort of half circle, and I remember, standing in the kitchen again, but she showed me like every single room, and her room had yellow wallpaper. So I remember thinking to myself, well, first of all, people always say that in dreams, you dream like in black and white, you don't actually dream in color. Well, I remember seeing the yellow wallpaper. And I remember going through all these rooms, and I remember what the kitchen looked like, where the window was, where there was a door. And she was the same thing. She was saying, please tell Lori that, I was really, really scared to die. I was always was claiming that I was really religious, but in honesty, when the push came to shove and I was on my deathbed, I didn't believe any of that, and I was terrified. But just tell her that it's okay, and you go to a great place, and not heaven or hell. She said there's no such thing. She said that there's one place where everybody goes, and we all know each other when we get to this place. We will all recognize each other. Whether you've met people or you've not met people, you will all know each other and who you are. But the only thing is that you won't carry your earthly burdens to this place. You won't feel any pain, you won't feel any regrets. Anything that you've done before is completely erased. You won't even actually remember it. So you will only remember the good part of yourself, and just, you won't remember anything other than, you're in this place, you're at peace, you're, in the place you're supposed to be, and that everybody is there kind of with you, and that you're not alone. So she described all this stuff, and so I kind of thought, okay, well, at least I knew that this person was actually very open to this. She had people talk to her pets psychically and all that. So I thought, okay, she's going to be an easy one to approach. So one day I was chatting with her, and I said, well, I know that there's, that your mom passed away, and can I just ask you a question? I just wanted to kind of describe the house. And she was just completely shocked, blown away. And she said, well, there's no way you could have known this, because I kind of described the outside of the house and going in and the yellow wallpaper, and that just really threw her. She said, oh my God, the yellow wallpaper, I can't believe that you would know that, because how would you know that? So I always got these little details, but always ultimately the message was that I'm okay, don't worry about me. It was, just I'm in a good place, and something that they were relaying. So I don't know why those particular people felt like they had to, relay a message, and through a dream was, and it was the same thing. I woke up completely drained, beyond drained, almost sick drained. It wasn't just you're kind of tired. It was really, really exhausted, and all your energy. It probably took me a day or two to kind of, get back to normal again. At the time, I didn't know what it was, because I thought, well, what on earth is this? I wasn't investigating the paranormal. I had nothing, I wasn't talking to people about the paranormal, anything like that. I was always open to it. I always kind of believed in things like that, but just had never experienced anything. And then the last dream that I had was probably, I would say, 3-4 months later. It was a friend's grandfather. So this was an actual friend, so that was an easy one to talk to her about. But it was a friend's grandfather who came to me and said, she's feeling guilty about something that happened to her when she was in grade school. Ask her about, just tell her to let go of it, because she's holding on to this guilt. When she was a young kid in elementary school, they were on the school bus, and tell her to remind her about the school bus incident. She will know what that means. But just tell her that she was a kid, she didn't know any better, and to just let it go and to not worry about it. The other person on the other end who was wronged is okay, and you were just kids, so just, don't worry about it. So then after I had that dream, I came to her and I said, I had a dream that your grandfather was chatting with me. And she was really close to her grandfather for a long time, until he passed away and everything. And so at the time, she said, oh, I haven't really thought about him in a long time. I said, well, I had a dream about him. I've never met him, of course. Again, it was just that same thing. He was long gone before I ever came along and even knew her. And I told her, he wants you to kind of let go of the school bus incident and to not blame yourself, whatever. And so she said, oh my God, I can't believe there would be no way. And she explained to me what it was. She was about maybe 8 or 9 years old. They were on a school bus, and her really, really good friend at that time was a little black girl. So they were riding on the school bus one morning, and some kids started calling her the N-word. Well, my friend didn't know what that meant, so she started calling her the N-word. And so all the kids kind of ganged up on this little black girl. And after that, so I guess her friend wasn't her friend anymore because, the parents kind of didn't want her to have anything to do with it, but she didn't know what it meant. She did, and she said all these years, like until her adult life, she always felt super, super guilty about that. And I said, well, your grandfather said, don't feel guilty. You were a little kid. You didn't know any better. This other person he knows is okay. So you should just kind of let go of it. So she was just completely, completely shocked. So again, just something I wouldn't have ever known. And then to get the verifying on the other end, the other person actually telling me, yes, this is a fact that it was true. And so that kind of blew me away. Ever since then, I've been trying to channel that, I guess, or to have those experiences again. I've not had them. Not to that extent. Maybe to a lesser degree, but not that detailed.
That's like psychic stuff.
It is.
Messages.
Yeah.
Messenger.
And I don't know why in my 30s that opened up. I don't know if you get to a place where you just kind of, maturity level wise, or why it was at that time. Maybe I was just around people that needed to hear something, and the people from their past were still around to, let me know to let them know, because I was always very open to that and had people around me that were very open to that sort of thing. So, but yeah, since then I can't get it back to that point. I would love to get it back to that point, but I don't know what I was doing at that time in my life, or what was, what in the universe allowed me to have that moment. But since then, not as good of a moment.
Wow, that leaves me speechless with the message.
Yeah, it was amazing at the time. And so it was, and I just remember just each time feeling so tired and feeling so drained after every single time. And I thought, this is just, is it going to feel like, it almost felt like if it went on for too long, like it would, not that it would kill you, but I almost felt that way because it was so zapping of energy. And and see, now talking about this, so one of the very last one, the grandfather said to me that the longer that somebody's gone, the more energy it takes to talk to you, because they need to grab the energy from you because they've been gone a lot longer. So if they're not gone as much of a long time, then they don't need to grab like living energy as much. But so that kind of made sense to me. I guess if they're gone a long time, they have to sort of manifest, with whatever from a living person. But yeah, so it was just a really, really weird, just very mystical sort of experiences that I had. So those were and then nothing for years and years.
What got you back into the paranormal? You just say that nothing has happened for years and years. What kind of turned you back into wanting to?
I think just me and my sister getting together. We went on a couple of ghost walks. We were like, okay, we were always both of us were very fascinated with that stuff. So I just, we kind of got excited again. Like during the pandemic, it was 2020. We were doing the calendar, and we just thought, we just love this stuff. So let's just keep going with it. And and then once we got onto it, our very first places we went to were in Victoria, but our very first place here that we decided to go to was the Irving House. So we went to the Irving House. Didn't have much of an experience there. Caught a couple orbs in photographs, which were quite good. But went to the graveyard, went to Fraser Cemetery right after on that same day. And we just kept feeling like something's kind of pulling us, not really Captain Irving, but when the tour guide was talking about the grandkids and the people who lived in the house, one of the granddaughters sort of stuck with us. She had like this really long red hair, and they had a picture of her with the long red hair, and there was actually a doll, oddly, made of her with her hair. So we kind of were like, okay, well, for some reason we decided to investigate her, and as we started looking, we found out that she wrote a book, and it was just like a little tiny book. It wasn't like the books that we see today. So it was like a little staple thing back in the day, and it did really well. It was Saga of a Seafarer. She wrote about her grandfather's seafaring adventures, and I tried to find the book online. So I found this one bookstore in the interior that had it. So when they sent it, I kind of put it aside, didn't really look at it. And then once the weekend rolled around, I remember flipping through it, and inside was a letter from her to her publisher. So we actually discovered a document in this book, which was amazing. And we were able to donate it to the New Westminster Archives.
That's amazing.
So to me, finding something like that, I thought, okay, somebody's trying to tell us something, that we're either on the right track, we need to continue with our, paranormal investigating or whatever we're doing right now. So something is there to be found, and there's, we just felt such a strong pull more towards her and not towards, Captain Irving. And he's the one supposedly who haunts the house and, so on. But I think sometimes spirits talk to you in different ways. It's not always just an event or a sound or a bump in the night, but sometimes it's just a feeling of pursuing something, that you're getting pulled a certain way to find out certain information. So I thought, if we hadn't been the ones to get that book at the right time, like who knows what would have happened to that document.
Mm-hmm.
But now it's part of the archives, which is kind of cool. So yeah, I would say that kind of got us, going along. Like there's a little bit more to the story usually. So.
And how important is history to the paranormal?
Huge. Because you have to know when you're going to a place, why, if there are hauntings or if there's unrest, why is there unrest? Why is there a haunting? Is somebody still trying to fill in the blanks? Or if you're coming along, are they waiting for somebody to come along to tell the story too? Because maybe they're still around, and we have a feeling like a lot of times people say like, oh, only certain people are around and haunting places. Well, what if everybody's around? That's what I think. Like, I think maybe the dead don't actually depart our realms completely. So I think that, at certain times we can feel them, at certain times, when we need to feel them, or maybe when they need to finish telling a story, or they want something more to be found out. I think they just linger, like with these guys.
Leads me to my next question. What's your take on haunted dolls?
I think they can be haunted. I mean,
haunted objects.
Haunted objects. I think they can absolutely be haunted, and I think that's why a lot of times people say, "Oh, museums can't be haunted," or I think museums absolutely can be haunted. They're not necessarily a building that has to be there a long time, but once you bring these objects together that people touched, they used them. With especially things like dolls, when a kid is attached to them, or even an adult's attached to something, I think it can absorb that energy. And again, like I find myself thinking back to, now that I'm investigating the paranormal, I find myself thinking, okay, I didn't have that many experiences in the past, but the more I think back, I realize that they were there all along. I just wasn't looking for them. And my very first experience with a haunted object was a haunted ring. So I had this ring I like antique jewelry, so I kind of look online and I do auctions and I go to estate sales. In the States, in the US, when I lived there was a lot of estate sales, so you could go to somebody's house who just passed away and you could buy their stuff. So I don't know how good of an idea that would be now, but so I purchased this ring, and it was a great deal. So it was like a diamond, early 1900s, maybe late 1800s. Got it home. I was really excited about the price of it because it was really nice. Got a great deal, but every time I put it on, I felt sick, like really physically, like really badly sick. So I thought, didn't dawn on me till I put it on a few times, and I thought, oh no, something's going on here. Like every time I put this thing on, I'm feeling nauseated. I'm feeling kind of not right. And one time I was really quite sick. I was kind of worrying. I thought, well, it can't be the ring. I mean, I thought at that time I was thinking to myself, oh no, I'm just kind of making that up in my head. It can't. I kept staring at it in the box. I would kind of hesitate putting it on. Finally, I went to a pawn shop and got rid of it because I thought, okay, I traded it in for a bracelet because I thought something's up with this thing, and I don't know who was attached to it or what was going on. Didn't think much of it at the time, but I just knew something was wrong with it. And out of all the jewelry that I've gotten secondhand, I've never had an issue other than that one piece. But it took me a while to kind of realize there's something wrong. Every time I put it on, I'm not well, and I was really queasy. So would have been nice to know where it came from and all that, and do all the research. But
would the Gina of 2022?
I probably wouldn't have gotten rid of it. No, I wouldn't have worn it maybe, but I would have tried to trace back to the main owner, talk to the family members, kind of see who had it and what the history was, and was it passed down from somebody? Who knows who had it? Maybe they died, maybe they were sick, maybe they were poisoned. I mean, I don't know. Could be anything. But no, today I wouldn't have gotten rid of it. Not right away anyway, without digging.
Fair enough. Okay, that concludes our little episode of It Happened to Me. I appreciate your stories. And lastly, what do you have going on for 2022?
Ooh, lots of stuff. So we just got our piece accepted into the Feminine Macabre Volume 3. So that is our, it's Among the Shadows, Curious Canadian Cryptids. So we write about a lot of creatures and where they're found across Canada. So a lot of times we focus on BC, but this was kind of across Canada, a few that caught our attention, and then a little section in our own local neighborhood that's Sasquatch and UFOs, so we kind of wrote about that. So that's the first thing. And we do have other things coming that I can't say yet, but they are coming out, so.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much.
Thanks.